So tell me.
All right, so welcome back, guys. This is the Probe Report podcast number 3 here on Project Lone Wolf. As you can see, this time around, we got Lewis here with us. Thank you, Lewis, for coming back.
Yeah, thank me. We don't got to be watching this
romance and shit.
Romance.
Why?
Anyways, guys, so podcast number 3, we're going to cover up to current events with the Ukraine war on what we know, which, I'll confess there's more questions than answers. But, Lewis, so let's kick this off proper, guys. What was it? Last year in 22, where we had the situation where Mr. Vladimir Putin was amassing his battalions, right? Armament and troops right next to the border. I don't know if you remember those days or not.
I remember, yeah.
Okay, so they were having war games and whatnot.
So they were doing like, what are those called? Exercise, right? Like
military exercises. It was basically training.
But at the border, Ukraine.
Eastern Ukraine, right at the border. So basically, it's like the letter. You know what I mean? It's like, it was like, you have that kid in the playground, right? And he's like, I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. Knowing that they don't get along, right? It's basically what they were doing. But it didn't stop there, because shortly after, when the military training was over, we had troops cross the border and formally
invade
Ukraine. Ukrainians call it an invasion, and Putin and the Russians called it a military operation. So basically, guys, what's going on with that is that the ethnic Russians in eastern Ukraine were getting, according to several sources, mistreated by the Ukrainians, and basically Russians stepped in. And it was like because of this event, we are now doing this. So, dang, dude, it's been a hell of a thing. And I remember when we would talk on the phone, and I tell you, bro, they're saying that the war games are over and they haven't left. This was before they invaded. And then I saw on a different source that medical encampments were being set up, and that they were the real one was, I heard off of one source that the Russians were bringing tons and tons of plasma to their medical encampments, so like for blood transfusions and stuff like that. So that, from what the experts say, right, and people that I've asked, that is a clear indication of a mobilization right before a big regional war. So that, Lewis, from your end of the spectrum, what do you know about Ukraine up to date from that moment, from when they first invaded up to now? There's been hella shit going on. Anywhere from Snake Island to Crimea to, taking the Donetsk region and the Donbass region, which is eastern Ukraine, to right now they're in Bakhmut. Right now they're basically, from what I have understood, they're in Bakhmut. And basically this is the last stronghold to where they are receiving armament from Europe, from NATO, and I guess they're getting resources and food and ammo and all that stuff. But it's coming in from this Bakhmut area, which right now is a focal point of the war. Lewis, we got to add on what we got going on out there.
All I know is that the way it kind of affects us is that you got United States sending all this money over there,
right.
Millions and millions and billions of dollars.
A rise in opposition to the Ukrainian supplemental bill, $40 billion. But there's no baby formula for American mothers and babies. An unknown amount of money to the CIA in the Ukraine supplemental bill, but there's no formula for American babies and mothers. If this is about claiming that it's about saving lives, let's be real, then we would care about war-torn countries like Ethiopia. So that's a bunch of hypocrisy.
Which I don't think it's right, bro, because we got a lot of stuff going on here in the United States. Like, there's a lot of homeless, and
totally ignoring, completely ignoring our own border crisis, our own baby formula crisis, and brutal inflation, skyrocketing gas prices that no one can afford, but $40 billion for Ukraine?
The whole point of the video is, how does this affect us? And Lewis is he's touching up on the first good point of this conversation. And you're right, bro. We do got a lot of shit going on here in the States. You left off at, we got homeless crisis, economic crisis. I remember in that area, and because I have a newborn baby, we weren't able to find any baby formula at the store.
Right, there was nothing.
And it was in that moment that the Biden administration decides to fork over $54 billion to the Ukraine cause.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
But there's no baby formula for...
And for what, bro? I mean, why?
Well,
Why?
because poor Ukrainian people are suffering.
They're suffering.
And, I mean, they are.
But
who? So this is a conversation I had with an uncle of mine the other day. He's like, and he leans hard left, right? So, and he's ready to die on that hill, bro. He's ready to die for the blue. And I didn't really continue the conversation, but I told him, so why are we sending all these billions of dollars to Ukraine? He's all, what would you do with that money? I'm like, what do you mean, with our taxpayer money?
Yeah.
Like, you mean the money that we have no choice in deciding if we pay it or not? Like, if you live, shit, and breathe here in the States, you're going to pay taxes. Oh, well, immigrants come in, they don't pay taxes. They don't get away from taxes. I mean, maybe not like a citizen does, but every time they go purchase an item in a store or things of their standard of living, their requirements, their food or whatever. I mean, not food, but like clothing and shoes and whatever they need, there's a tax on that. So they're not fully exempt from taxes. So point being is that the government is supposed to utilize this money. I mean, first of all, not to just fork it over to another government, right? I mean, they are not allowed to do what they want with the money. Like, it should be generated for the benefit of the people, right? And we have not been seeing that with this Ukraine crisis. And who decides who gets the help? The Yemenis war has not dwindled down. It has not calmed down. Syria hasn't calmed down. Libya. You know, there's a video of Hillary Clinton and Obama bragging about killing Gaddafi. Oh, we were involved in Gaddafi, blah, blah, in Libya. Okay, so you took down a dictator like Saddam Hussein. You took down a dictator, hurrah, right? Who replaced him? Who replaced him? A better president elected by the states? Or was it a terror group? Because I hear that in Libya and in Syria and in Iraq, it was ISIS. It was terrorist groups. So while they're over here bragging about, oh, well, we took down that dictator. He was bad. He was mistreating his people. They didn't even like him, okay? Who replaced him? Don't go too far, bro. We have Afghanistan and the withdrawal of Afghanistan. You guys are familiar with that, but we were in Afghanistan for a long time. Did you see any of those videos, Lewis, of Biden's withdrawal of Afghanistan? It was big news, guys, big news. There was people hanging on to the landing gear of these airplanes.
Okay, yeah.
These airplanes are already taking off, man. They're hanging on to the wheel wells and shit. Like, they're gonna die if they fall off that plane, and they know it. But that's how bad they saw it in their mind if they would have stayed in Afghanistan. That's just another country that we get involved in, that when shit hits the fan, we just pack up and leave. And we leave the people there, the common, normal people. We leave them to fend for themselves. And honestly, we leave them worse than when they were before we got involved. So back to Ukraine. So judging guys, basically bringing up the question why we're helping them specifically. Why are we helping them specifically? I don't have that.
Yeah, why are we helping them?
Don't have the answer to that question. I have a theory though. Have a theory. And part of that theory is that the Bidens were invested in petroleum and natural gas and oil in Ukraine. That's one theory. Something about holding shares along the 30 to 40%. You guys could look in. This is what I've heard. I'm not the expert on this, but this is what I've heard. Is it true? Is it false? Hey, that's why you guys have your phone in your hand and you guys can Google it. So anyway, I'm not, that's not a hill I'm going to die on. I'm not saying, yeah, Biden. The only thing I have seen Biden do is, basically go, sleep with hookers and prostitutes in Ukraine. I've seen that. There's videos of him doing that.
Meanwhile, Hunter Biden is over there.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Hunter.
Oh, I thought you said Joe Biden, did you?
Well, Hunter Biden is over there screwing. So my theory on Joe and why Democrats and even some Republicans are rallying behind this war to support Ukraine is because I believe, and this is another theory, that they're invested in the military-industrial complex. I feel like they're invested in it. And it's not that I feel like there's rumors. I'm talking about Lockheed Martin, right? They make the F-22 Raptors and F-35s. Among other things, they make missiles. Raytheon. I'm talking about Daniel Defense. I'm talking about, the people that make the ammunitions and stuff. All this stuff has a price. And can you buy stocks and shares in it? Yeah, you can. And what I'm saying is hey, what if, since I'm invested, for example, in Raytheon, right? They make missiles and shit like that, and aviation, military hardware, or whatever. If I'm invested in them, is it not to my benefit that they produce more because they're selling more? So wouldn't it be in my benefit, as sick as it sounds, if there is war?
Yeah, because they're sending all this ammunition and missiles and tanks and money and stuff that they have investments in, and they gotta, it's gonna cost money to make.
Right, and I think they're getting that money. Sell, right, the more they sell, the more they make.
They profit off of it.
Right,
which is kind of stupid. Dude, it's kind of stupid because for example, here they don't want people to have guns. They want to ban all guns. But then they go and invest in their stocks.
And then they don't want violence here in the States. But exactly. But then they go, like Daniel Defense, for example, they make platforms for AR-15s. Right. That's the number one argue point for the left, Democrats, liberals alike, is hey, it was an AR-15 style assault weapon. Every mass shooting, they want to emphasize on that, whether it's CNN, ABC, MSNBC. They want a strong emphasis on, hey, it was a military AR style rifle. Meanwhile, would you be surprised if research showed that these same politicians are invested in stocks for these companies? Hypocrites, man. Counterintuitive. That doesn't really fit the mold of what they're saying. But it's true.
Yeah, they don't care. They just want money, I guess. At the end of the day, they just care about money, about their bank accounts.
Right. And it's kind of like a legal way to launder money, to wash the money. Like,
right.
They generate, and it's not like a lot of people are like, well, if Ukraine wins, they'll pay that money back. No, they're not. They're not banking on that. They're not waiting for that. Win or lose, they're getting that money. How are they getting that money? Taxpayer dollars. So it's paid for. Whether Ukraine owes the U.S. government later on, win or lose, that's, as they say, their pedo. You know what I mean? These companies that I mentioned, right? You're not going to have them just produce for free. They're getting their money.
Right.
They're getting their money from taxpayer-generated income. Okay, so should the American people have a problem with that? I would say so, yeah.
Yeah.
I would say there should be more transparency on what they are doing with our obligated tax money that you do not have a choice with. Some of you guys that are watching right now, what happens if you're late, here in California, we have a maximum of 2 years before, you need to report your taxes to the IRS. Louis, you have experience in business ownership. You've ran your own businesses before. What's it like, dude, filing taxes?
Well, for sure, you're gonna have to pay back. For sure.
Right.
You gotta pay them, and then you give you a time. So you got till this day to pay me what?
IRS.
Right.
Right.
If you don't, then charge you interest on top of that.
So there's no escaping it.
So there's no escape. No, hell no. You don't fuck with the IRS.
So going back to Ukraine, we're kind of establishing a different narrative of what you guys are hearing on mainstream. I don't care if you get your news from Facebook, YouTube, CNN, whatever it is, Fox or whatever. We are showing you guys, hey, yeah, that's what they're saying. And we're not saying that what we're saying is true. We're just planting the seed that, hey, maybe there's other reasons that are not specified on why this war is going down over there. Now, from the Russians' point of view, I try to get a little bit into it on the podcast number 2. This is podcast number 3. And basically what I tried establishing is, hey, this is what Russia's saying about the war. That they had to intervene for the citizens of eastern Ukraine that were getting mistreated by the Ukrainians, which are they lean more towards favoring the Russian side. But in reality, man, since this war kicked off, the amount of escalation that I have personally been paying attention to, there was that nuclear power plant that Russia took over. I thought shit was going to hit the fan because of that. I mean, you have like a Chernobyl incident to where you have a nuclear level event and a lot of people are hurt. I thought that would be grounds for having a nuclear exchange. Okay, and then it didn't happen there. Then we had the blowing up and destroying of Nord Stream. Louis, are you familiar with Nord Stream? Nord Stream is basically a pipeline that delivers crude oil, freshly pumped from Russia, to Europe, particularly Germany. And this is another interesting topic. Recently, so the line got blown up. So basically, Russia, through a pipeline, is providing European countries and also members from NATO and the European Union. You would think they'd be enemies, but they were still buying oil to produce fuel from the Russians. Not too long ago, a few months ago, the pipeline was blown. It was exploded in a terror act. You had people from the United Nations or whatever investigate into it, and when Russia was demanding the results on empty ears, they were not responding. I think their official response was it was Ukrainian sympathizers. That was their official response. That was what their investigation concluded. And I say that's bullshit, but anyway, America came out and they tried to insinuate that it was the Russians that blew up their own line. Why? Oh, they did it so they could have a reason to attack us. I mean, the guilty mouth speaks the abundance of their heart, right? Like what I'm saying is, like, since the States has indulged in that type of behavior, everything from the Bay of Tonkin to 9/11, and they're like, oh, that's probably why they blew up their own pipeline, huh? They wanted an excuse to go. They're experts at it, but I don't know if the rest of the world indulges in that type of behavior. But pretty much, dude, it didn't benefit the Russians, right? Because they're doing what they want in Ukraine, and they're losing money, right? They're now not able to sell the petroleum to Europe, which they were still going to do. And then now Germany is not able to get the much needed fuel that they need. Excuse me. So there was that. When that happened, I thought World War III was going to pop off. Right? And then fast forwarding a little bit, we had that drone incident where there was I think it was was it a Predator or a Reaper? It's a full-size unmanned a vehicle that was downed by a couple of Russian fighter jets. It was like a month ago.
Oh, okay.
And then they're like, oh, they dumped fuel on it and they burned it. And I was like, shit, man, now World War III is going to pop off.
Oh, yeah, because it was the United States.
Right. And then they put a no-fly zone. Basically, the Russians were controlling the skies over Ukraine. I don't know how that's boiling over. But then now more recently, to more recent events, there's been a lot of nukes. So United States had this agreement with Russia, and basically it's like, hey, Russia, I know you guys have nukes. You guys know we have nukes. How's about we allow each other's, you have a diplomat inspect our nukes. We have one inspect your nukes. We know where they're at all times. So we're going to know where yours are at. You're going to know where ours are at. And on your yearly military drills where you actually try out your ICBMs and your hypersonic missiles, this agreement is basically, hey, we're going to let each other know when we do that. That way we know it's a drill and you guys ain't attacking us. So officially about, I think not too long ago, several weeks ago, this agreement was officially crumbled up, thrown in the garbage. What's my point with all this? Is that now there is no communication with Russia and the United States. So now that they don't know where our nukes are at, or I mean, they knew, they flew a balloon right over them, but then they moved them. But then now we don't know where their nukes are at.
China flew the balloon.
China flew the balloon, but China is homies with who? With the Russians.
With Putin.
And this is where we step into the World War III roster lineup. We could safely assume that the Russians, the Chinese, the Iranians, and North Koreans, for starters, are forming a 4-nation front. What do you guys want to call them? The Axis powers, blah, 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 the bad guys, whatever. But they're united. And those are just the ones that I know off the top of my head that that we know that will fight in an event.
Iran too, did you say Iran?
Yes, Iran, North Korea, China, Russia. Okay?
For sure, them four.
And I know a lot of people are like, Iranians. I've showed you videos of their military power, right?
Yeah, they're pretty badass.
They're not... I think they would give... I'll use Canada as an example. I think they would give Canada a run for their money. If it was just Canada versus Iran, I think Iran might kick their ass. I don't know. I'm sorry, Canadian people that might be watching this channel. Probably nobody's watching it. But, they're a formidable military. They're not old school. They're not in turbans and with old AKs. They're modernized. They are modernized. And where they're not, I guarantee you Russia and China are helping them.
For sure.
North Korea. People, North Koreans, they're crazy. They're a hermit country. Hermit and like a hermit frog. Like, he wants to be alone.
Yeah, it's back the way you came.
Anti-social when it comes to the rest of the world. But these guys are modernized as well, thanks to the Chinese and the Russians. They have anti-air S-400s, S-300s, S-400s. And, they used to have old school fighter jets. They probably still do. But now, thanks to China, they have more modern air defense and air offense. They have submarines, nuclear capable. They have EMPs, and essentially any nuclear bomb can be used as an EMP. It's not like, these are EMP only, and they're basically one and the same. But now they have intercontinental ballistic missiles that could, basically be armed with a nuclear warhead, and it could hit anywhere in the United States.
That thing's China too, right?
And China has that. China's been having that, and Russia has that as well. So the countries that are now getting involved in Ukraine, because it's Russia, but this whole time it's been the PMC Wagner. Have you heard of PMC Wagner?
No.
Okay, probably a lot of you guys haven't either. So So yes, Russia's heading on an invasion of Ukraine, but their military personnel, the actual Russian military, is just holding the ground that PMC Wagner conquers. So PMC Wagner was started by this ex-general in the Russian forces that started his own private military company. And the majority of these guys, well, they're basically mercenaries, right? They're killers they're soldiers of fortune, right? And they have their own flag and uniform and everything, bro. And they're in the tens of thousands. It's a private military. And basically, this guy is allowed to go to Russian prisons and recruit lesser offender convicts straight out of prison and basically offer them, hey, you have these options. You could continue to serve your term here in prison, or you could sign a contract, be released, be trained in our ranks, and if you survive the front line in Ukraine for 6 months, we guarantee that your record will be wiped clean. After that, you're given the option of, returning home to your family, or, continue to fight for Wagner, PMC. There's videos of that on there, bro. I don't know if you want to look one up or whatever, but that guy goes into the prison, in the prison yard, and who wants to come fight? Who wants to come fight for them? And the government's allowing it. The government's backing it. Point being is that Russia hasn't even really sent forth their own troops into the fight yet. It's all these ex-convicts and gang member guys that are in a private military company. So that's who we know that's getting involved. We also know that China is helping Russia with armament. We also know that the North Koreans are sending or have already sent more than 50,000 troops to get into the fight with the Russians. On NATO side, from your understanding, Lewis, who is directly involved on the American-Ukrainian side helping Ukraine in the fight? Well, number one, United States. That you know of.
That's in NATO?
That's helping Ukraine right now. What European countries? Like, just off the top of your head. So recently we had Leopard tanks get sent from Germany to Ukraine. The irony of this, okay, so from what I have understood, United States, Canada, France, Britain, Germany, and among other countries that are aiding Ukraine. So what's my point? My point is that you have, off the top of my head, United States, Canada, Germany, Britain, and France that are directly assisting Ukraine with armament. That's 5 countries, Ukraine's 6. And then you have Russia, China's involvement, North Korea's involvement, Iran's actually sending drones as well as them beefing over here with Israel as well. Oh, and then China with the whole Taiwan thing.
Xi Jinping is trying to position himself as a global statesman.
So you already you have over 10 countries involved in this Ukraine conflict. What's my point? Is that this is no longer being confined and restrained only in Ukraine. This is now involving other countries. Therefore, and we have nukes now, bro. This isn't like World War II. There's thousands of nukes. There's enough nuclear weapons, right? You only need to drop about 10 nukes at the same time to seriously change the ecosystem in the world for everybody. For everybody. We've been getting all this rain in California, man. And it's abnormal. It's not normal. Okay, so after nuclear war, expect abnormal weather. Expect regional forest fires. Expect radiation to be in the air. Expect people to die of radiation poisoning. This is the type of stuff that we would deal with in an event of a nuclear war. Which, hey, if we hit World War III, I mean, why did they invent these bombs in the first place? To not be used? To just put them up on a shelf? To just, brag about, oh, I have them. Nah, man. New kid on the block gets a new toy. He's gonna want to go show it off and use it. So we got the involvement of all these countries, and point being is, as us citizens, what do? What can we do?
Get ready.
Get ready. In what ways would that?
Because it's not like we're gonna go and change anything. We can't stop the war. Can't stop no wars.
But I see nothing wrong. I see everything right with attempting to raise awareness on the seriousness of what's going on over here in Ukraine. Because if a World War III pops off, guys, we talked about this the other day. If World War III pops off, guys, whether you're Democrat or Republican, liberal or libertarian, or you might be in the middle, I guarantee you, if they pulled people for the draft during the Vietnam War, and that wasn't a world war, but they were having drafts. I don't know if you guys know what a draft is. Basically, the government does like a lottery type of event, but no, not to win millions of dollars or mega jackpots. It's for your ass to go to war and go fight for this fucking.
Enter Baltic states, NATO member states, and then the US will have to send their sons and daughters exactly the same way as we are sending their sons and daughters to war, and they will have to fight because it's NATO that we're talking about, and they will be dying, God forbid, because it's a horrible thing.
Country, but it's you're obligated to do it now, and if you don't want to do it, you could be faced with a prison term just for not wanting to go kill other people. I thought killing was bad. But anyways, these are the type of things that I guarantee you will ensue if World War III breaks out. What can we do about it? Yeah, you could prep. I know that there's some groups out there. I listen to Jimmy Dore. He's a comedian / podcast guy. I listen to Jimmy Dore a lot on YouTube. And I know he's been involved with protest groups that go to Washington. And they're like, hey, enough with this Ukraine war. We ain't with it. What you guys could do out there on YouTube that are watching, dislike that video that is telling you to sympathize for the Ukraine war. Not because the Russians are right or the Ukrainians are right. I try to establish on the last video that Ukraine has always been part of Russia. They've always been. They speak, this guy speaks Ukrainian, this guy speaks Russian. It's the same effing language. They're brothers. They are brothers. It's the right thing to do to side with one brother and be like, hey, dude, kill him. Kill him. Like what? Or is it, hey, guys, hey, as brothers and sisters, maybe we shouldn't be fighting.
You get everything you want. Mom gives you everything. So does all of our friends. You get everything. You're not supposed to do that. I'm your brother.
Maybe we should talk this out. Because once you cross that line, there's no turning back. There's no turning back. So, the United States wants to give themselves the moral high ground. What they should be doing is trying to promote peace. Trying to get these guys, at which are brothers and sisters, to stop fighting. But no. They don't really care about what's correct, I don't think, man. I really don't think so. And I really don't want to go fight. I don't got nothing against Ukrainians. I don't got nothing against Russians. But say World War III breaks out. If we survive a fucking nuking, right? I don't want to get drafted and have to go fucking fight and kill Russians. I don't dislike them. I don't hate them. I think they got a rich and beautiful culture. Just like the Ukrainians. I mean, it's basically the same thing, but got nothing against Ukrainians. Got nothing against the Russians. I got nothing against Iranians. I got nothing against China. I mean, bro, you really want to piss off China? Like what? Most of the stuff that you get at Walmart or Costco is made in China. You would be essentially shooting yourself in the foot. Interpret over with you. What's getting ready for you? Prep. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching. This has been another podcast of the Probe Report number 3. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.
And said, I don't need a ride. I need more ammunition. That's the kind of leader you want to see, and we need to provide him the ammunition.
and not going into hiding.
Yeah, he is example in leadership 101. Be out front, and where you can't be physically, get your videos out there. Put on the same combat gear that your troops are wearing. Stand up for your nation. And let's face it, he's someone who's been a performer in a previous life. He's pretty good with a one-liner. He said the other day, when the Russians come for us, they will see our faces, not our backs, meaning they are not going to back down. He's the kind of leader I would want to go into combat with.
Admiral Stavridis, so great to have your insights always. We appreciate you being with us this